Welcome to The Owner's Odyssey, navigating the greatest journey of your life.
Hello and welcome back to The Owner's Odyssey, navigating the greatest journey of your life. My name is Kevin Rosenquist, here again with Jeff Redmon. In our last episode, we dug into multiples and how to move from average to premium. Well, today we're looking at a whole different level, the strategic buyer advantage. What happens when a buyer doesn't just pay within the range, but sees your business as game-changing for theirs? Jeff, welcome back.
Thanks, Kevin. Glad to see you again.
Absolutely. So can you just start by unpacking this strategic advantage to us? What does that all mean?
Well, I'll relate it to something we all can understand. We have two houses side by side, identical in every respect, but one of them has a Rembrandt hidden in the attic. The buyer that recognizes the Rembrandt in the attic will pay millions more for that house. Our goal is to help you position your company as having a Rembrandt in the attic. Not every business will qualify, but those that do can command much higher prices. So what's your Rembrandt in the attic? Maybe it's technology, maybe it's a customer base, maybe it's your market position, or you have a platform the buyer thinks they can scale to a much higher level. Sometimes the buyers are valued simply at a higher multiple themselves. So by adding your revenue instantly increases the company's value far beyond the cost of purchasing you. That's why strategic buyers can pay well above market ranges.
That makes sense. Okay. So what exactly makes a buyer strategic?
Good question. The financial buyer really looks for return on investment. How much am I going to get if I put my money in this investment? And they'll live within the multiple market ranges, kind of generally on the low end of ranges. There are certainly strategic buyers that also will pay within market ranges and generally on the higher side. Financial buyers tend to pay less than strategic buyers. Here, I'm talking about the strategic buyer that's looking for a fit that creates a game-changing move. They ask, does this business give us something we don't already have and can accelerate our growth? Examples might be a larger company buying your technology so they don't have to build it themselves. It might be a competitor buying your customer base to increase market share or entering into a new market. It might be a company that's looking for vertical integration so they can cut the need for an outside vendor, or a company in an adjacent market using your business as a platform to level up. That's what makes them strategic, because they're paying for synergies, not just earnings.
Okay. Do you have an example or a story that you can share where a strategic buyer really sort of changed the equation?
Absolutely. I helped organize a company that developed secure internet communication for medical claims in the healthcare industry. Prior to their technology, all medical records went by paper, fax, or old DSL lines. Internet transmissions were simply prohibited. It took them over 10 years, but they basically created a secure internet connection for all 6,000 US hospitals and over 600,000 healthcare clinics in the US. Their disruptive technology generated $100 million in top line revenue just processing medical reimbursements. They sold for $550 million, or 5.5 times revenue, not EBITDA, but top line revenue. That company sold again a couple years later for $1.2 billion, and subsequently went private at 7.2 billion. Their Rembrandt in the attic was this secure internet connection with over 600,000 healthcare facilities in the US. Now,
Wow.
I've also seen case where a publicly traded company was trading at 15 times EBITDA. Publicly traded companies call it their PE ratios, price to earnings ratio. And they buy a private company at, say, 7x. The moment they close, they can report that revenue at their 15x multiple. The value creation is instant, and it makes that much easier for them to justify the higher price they pay.
Wow. That's incredible. It's funny to think back to that. Like that's such a basic thing now to us, but that was groundbreaking technology not that long ago in the grand scheme
No,
of things.
absolutely.
It's wild stuff. So how can a business owner position themselves where they might get noticed by a strategic buyer?
I've kind of come up with 3 steps. Know your industry landscape. Who are the players that could benefit most from your business? Do your industry homework. Then you identify your specific differentiators. What is it about your company that is hard to replicate? Technology, relationships, talent, maybe contracts. And then tell the right story. Position your business not just as profitable, but as transformational for the right acquirer. Remember, the strategic buyer isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's a related industry, not a direct competitor. Owners who do their homework on who could benefit most are the ones that get strategic offers.
Jeff, we've talked about story a few times on here, which I find fascinating. I'm a podcaster. I like storytelling. But what do you mean by storytelling in the sense of business sales, business transactions?
Well, by understanding your business super well and the needs of your buyer, the wants of your buyers, you can craft the story so you're not just talking about profitability, but what's
Mhm.
possible with the synergies that would come together with the joining of your organization. A couple of examples. Twice I've had um, foreign buyers coming to the US for the first time. In one case, they didn't have any US operations, so they were buying a factory in the US with US customers. It was their way, and their Rembrandt in the attic was a US presence. That was what we sold. And in that case, the brokers had suggested we might get $50 million. And we found 2 buyers that were coming to the US, and we ended up selling that business for 75 million,
Whew.
a 50% premium from 2 strategic buyers bidding up the process.
Wow.
And then just this last year, a European vendor had no US contracts, and my client had contracts with all of the big players in her industry and half of the smaller players. So that buyer was really buying a customer list. And my client had individual relationships with those customers. So, to be honest, the financials were almost irrelevant to the ultimate sale price. It was a silly multiple that far beyond what they ever should have expected, because they were buying not the numbers, but contracts and relationships with all of the industry players that they were trying to get introduced to.
Interesting. Okay, buying the relationship. That's very interesting for sure. I find that fascinating to think about, telling your story in a way that will attract people and go beyond the numbers, as you said. Can you think of a practical step that an owner could take to think about strategic buyers differently?
Well, just to change your mindset, make a list of 3 companies that you think would find your business irresistible. Um, who could use your customers, your product, your market position to accelerate their growth? Write down how your business could give them an edge. That simple exercise shifts your mindset from selling a company to creating strategic value.
I like that. I like that. That's a whole new way of thinking about buyers. Which I think is kind of the whole point of what we're talking about here with the storytelling, with the strategic buyer. Do you have any final thoughts on kind of wrapping this whole concept up?
Well, the bottom line is financial buyers will value you within a market range. Certain strategic buyers will pay a little bit higher within that range, but the true strategic buyer can break the rules and they can pay transformational pricings, not just for earnings, but for the transformation you're adding your business to theirs could create. If you know how to position your company, you literally can unlock value most owners just never could imagine.
Yeah, that's super interesting stuff. Well said. All right. Well, thanks, Jeff. And thanks to everybody out there listening to us. Don't forget to subscribe to the Owner's Odyssey so you don't miss any future episodes. Next time, we're going to talk about the Owner's Transition Playbook, because selling your business, it's only half the story. Don't forget to download Jeff's free worksheet, Identifying Your Top 3 Strategic Buyers, at www.redmonlaw.com. Again, thank you very much. Really appreciate you all being here. Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate your time. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.